This map shows the current scale of Christianity across Eastern Europe and Russia. While this religious landscape grew through many historical shifts, it shares a common ancestor with a much smaller, earlier conversion in the Caucasus. In 301 AD, a full decade before Rome officially decriminalized the faith, the Kingdom of Armenia became the first nation in the world to adopt Christianity as its state religion. This early adoption began a process that tied the Armenian ethnic identity directly to the church, creating a social structure that would later hold the population together through displacement and the threat of total annihilation. But in the years leading up to 301, this national transformation looked impossible. It depended entirely on a man who had spent over a decade condemned to die in a hole in the ground. How did a nation's survival and a global religious shift emerge from a prisoner rotting in an abyss? In the late 3rd century, King Tiridates III followed the pagan Zoroastrian traditions of the era. When a Parthian nobleman named Gregory arrived to preach the gospel, the king condemned him to Khor Virap, a deep dungeon filled with filth and scorpions. Gregory was expected to die within days. However, he remained in that abyss for 13 years. His survival relied on a hidden act of mercy. A widow from the royal court, acting on a vision, secretly tossed a single loaf of fresh bread into the pit every day for over a decade. While Gregory endured the darkness below, King Tiridates began a mental descent above ground. Following his execution of a group of Christian nuns, the king was struck by a devastating illness that stripped him of his sanity. Historical accounts describe the king suffering from lycanthropy. He lost wisdom, sense, and physical form, roaming the forests and behaving like a wild boar while his physicians watched on, powerless. The kingdom fell into despair, with the physically freed king trapped in a mental hell, and the only man capable of helping him still buried in the earth. The turning point came from the king's sister, Princess Khor Virap. She had a recurring dream with a single message: only the man in the pit could heal her brother. The court believed Gregory must be a skeleton by now, but they lowered a rope into Khor Virap regardless. To their shock, Gregory emerged from the shaft, weathered but alive. Gregory prayed over the feral king, and Tiridates was restored to his health and his senses. This healing triggered a total reorientation of the royal court's priorities. In 301 AD, King Tiridates III was baptized. He immediately declared Christianity the state religion, making Armenia the first nation in history to do so. A single act of mercy in a dungeon translated into a national conversion, demonstrating how a small, hidden act can trigger a massive historical pivot. Armenia became a spiritual lighthouse in the East. As the theology and liturgy of the Armenian Church matured, its influence radiated north and east. This provided a precursor and parallel to the later Christianization of Kievan Rus, the foundation of modern Ukraine and Russia, and parts of Eastern Europe. This religious foundation faced its most severe test in 1915, during the Armenian Genocide. Under the Ottoman Turks, millions of Armenians were displaced or killed. The physical structures of the nation were shattered. During this period of annihilation, the Armenian people looked to their faith as a communal anchor. The teachings of the Church of the People provided a moral framework that remained intact even when the population was driven into the desert. This cultural resilience allowed the diaspora to rebuild their communities across the globe and eventually return to establish a modern sovereign state. Today, the echoes of Gregory's prayers in the pit still resonate in the stone walls of the Etchmiadzin Cathedral. It is a reminder that a nation's identity, once forged in endurance, cannot be easily erased.